Hey people, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And
this is
season
season 4 of
Pero
Let Me Tell You. Your interpretation.
Somebody's opinion about whatever it is. I mean, if it's an issue that maybe I don't know about.
But even still, because then that would pepper your...
Right, but sometimes certain editorials can have a certain amount of explanation.
Okay, depending on the author, right.
But 90% of the time, I don't care to read the editorial. I don't.
Well...
That's why we have a podcast, so we can talk about
lucky
things.
for you, we're on episode 171.
Are we recording?
We can talk about
oh, shit,
everything.
you recorded my whole editorial rant.
Your whole editorial spiel.
Spiel. Well, everybody, welcome to episode 179. Happy Pedo Friday.
Yeah.
171. 179. Did I say 179?
You said 179. It's
171.
171.
171. 171.
Today, I had to say 2022, and it took me a while to think about it.
2022.
Because we were talking about planning for the following year. And I was like, yeah, because we're going to start planning for 2022.
Oh my gosh. February 22nd, 2022.
Oh, so many twos.
2/22/22.
If Prince was alive, he'd probably write a song about it.
Yeah. So, how is everybody? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
We're at the end of August.
Friday.
Yeah, that's it. The year's over.
The year's over. That's it. Yeah, you go to Target, there's Halloween stuff.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day already of next year, of 2022. No, you know what I love? How like on January 2nd, January 2nd, they already have Valentine's Day stuff.
Oh, yeah. Valentine's
No,
they're like in spring.
No, and you know which okay, it's sort of like, you know how like fashion houses do like the fall collection and like the spring?
Right.
I feel the same about the Dollar Tree.
Oh, yes.
The Dollar Tree always is like 3 months ahead of whatever holiday. Like if you go now, they probably already have
They already have Halloween.
They already have Halloween? Well, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. In about 2 or 3 weeks, by episode 179, they're going to have Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, well, that's in 8 weeks, so that's 2 months. No, definitely they will have Christmas.
Yeah.
They'll have Christmas. But wait, what were we talking about? Oh, editorials.
I don't even know at this point.
Yeah, no, I don't care for editorials.
No.
And once upon a time, yes, there was a certain place for editorials, like of the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Well, but that was before like cable news and social media.
But now I feel like my main news source online is NBCnews.com. Right?
Okay.
It may surprise people that's not CNN. It's NBCnews.com. I've always, for news, gone to NBC. And I find that even NBCnews.com, it's like...
Op-ed.
Yes, it's like op-ed. I'm like, I don't mind some of them, but it's like, I want to read the news. Or I want to know about...
Yeah, but I think...
Factually about certain things.
I think that's also why nowadays people... Because again... You know, now when people say do your research, it's really just shorthand for keep going until you find something you agree with.
Right.
And the fact that so many news sources have like 400 op-eds on everything.
Right.
Now people can say like, no, but NBC says.
Right. And then, when you've read 2 articles, you become an expert.
Right.
And as we discussed several times here in the podcast, people become legal experts overnight. It took me 3 years.
Yeah. No,
or infectious disease experts.
I saw a meme the other day that said hospitals are going to stop actually relying on doctors for medical advice, and they're just going to start relying on parents who've read an article online.
Yes. Informed parents.
Informed parents.
Parents who've done their research. I actually did see.
That one.
Yeah. Do you remember the Instagram... follower that we had, we lost that follower.
What a shame.
We would engage with on some light conversation, and every other word she said, it was like, I've done my research.
Right.
And I'm like, but you haven't.
You haven't. You've looked for things that support your thought.
But no, not even that, because like she was clearly off.
No, but what I'm saying is, but that's what people do. They're like, oh, do your research. It's like, but I did. I went to a nonpartisan source and I pulled information. You went to www.myopinionisexactlylikyours.org and pulled that article.
Anyway, so something I wanted to bring up, because a lot of people are talking about it this week, because I think it's like foolishness.
Okay.
¿Oíste el lawsuit que le están metiendo a Nirvana?
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
It's totally legit.
Is it really?
Yeah. So let's talk about it. So for those of you who may have not heard, there was a lawsuit filed this week against the surviving members of Nirvana
And Kurt Cobain's
Courtney
estate, right?
Courtney Love, because she is the executor of Kurt Cobain's
okay.
estate, Geffen Records, and about 13 other defendants. Yeah.
So it's almost a class action.
Yes. They even include as a defendant the original bassist for Nirvana, which wasn't even part of Nirvana when they shot the picture. But they include him too.
Okay.
Anyway, so the
Dave Grohl's probably included too.
Dave Grohl is included.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
The surviving members of Nirvana. But even this guy, who had nothing to do with the Nevermind album. But anyway, so the lawsuit is being brought.
And for those of you who don't know, the cover to the Nevermind album
Yes,
is...
I was getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. The lawsuit is being brought by the baby on the now infamous and iconic cover of Nirvana's 1991 album, Nevermind, which, as you know, everybody knows that album, so I don't think...
We don't have to go further than that yet.
Right. It has a baby, which is naked, swimming, and...
In a pool, right?
In a pool, yeah. It was shot at the... a Rose Bowl Aquatic Center, that picture. And the baby, it looks like the baby's chasing a dollar, right? And it's like on a hook and all that. Probably, I would say easily, without a doubt, one of the top 10 most famous album covers.
Yeah, it's up there with Janet Jackson's Janet.
Yeah, it's one of the most famous album covers and probably one of the most famous just images, commercial images,
pop culture images
ever. Everybody knows that album, and it's also the album that brought Nirvana into commercial success and fame. A lot of people think that Nevermind was Nirvana's first album. It actually was not. It was Bleach in 1988 or 89.
But since there's no overnight successes, it's
right. And obviously that album has their most iconic hit, "Smells Like Teen Spirit." So what I think is really interesting is that the lawsuit is being brought by the baby, who is now...
I'm totally picturing a baby going to court.
Yes, by the baby. I don't have his name here, but...
that album came out when?
In 1991. He's 30.
So, yeah.
He's 30. And he was 4 months old when they shot the cover.
Está recién, yeah.
So he is bringing out the lawsuit, and among the allegations he has is child pornography.
That's where he kind of lost me.
Well, he kind of lost me in all of it, but child pornography. And here's the thing: what makes this really just a roller coaster. So child pornography cases or allegations are federal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this is a federal case.
Right.
And a lot of you are out there thinking, oh, but this is 30 years old. Statute of limitation doesn't apply.
To child pornography or murder, right?
Or to child pornography, yeah.
Those are the only two.
Yeah. It does not apply to child pornography. That's why, if you download something on your computer that's child pornography and they catch you years later,
they still
there's
catch you.
not a 4-year statute of limitation like there is in tort law or what have you. So he is not barred time-wise to bring this lawsuit. So he's, again, there's child pornography cases. He also made an allegation that because the image shows that the baby is chasing a dollar, he is alleging that he was a sex worker.
Fucking A.
Yeah. You haven't read the allegations?
I have not, because the minute that I saw the lawsuit, I couldn't go past the headline.
That he's a sex worker. Mind you, the dollar obviously was later added.
Yeah.
Who
hurt this child?
And then
who hurt this man? Because that's not normal.
And then he makes all these allegations of emotional distress, trauma, that he can't have relationships because of this, so on and so forth. Here's my whole take on it. I believe in, obviously I believe in PTSD, and I believe in trauma that you can have years later of an event that happened earlier in your life.
Fine.
I really do believe that 100%, and I support people that come out, a lot of times when you hear children that were molested by people or by a priest or something when they were children and they struggle with it, I'm 100% supportive of that. my problem with this lawsuit is that up until now, he had been interviewed for the 10th, 20th, and like I think 25th anniversary.
And he was cool with it.
He was cool with it. He's recreated the picture. He recreated the picture at like 10, 15, 25.
Okay,
like
so he's had fun
several
with it.
times. And I just that's the problem that I'm having reconciling it, because I'm trying to think of it with a very open mind, right? He didn't ask to be in that picture. He was a baby. This, according to the story, he was not paid to be in the picture.
How did that picture come?
So how the story goes is that the father of his father
okay,
was friends with the photographer, and the photographer told the father, "Hey, I'm going to be doing some pictures at the pool, at the Rose Bowl Aquatic Center, and I'm going to be doing some stuff with babies, like
bring your kid,
kid."
Yeah.
And he brought his kid, and I think he got like $200 for it.
Okay.
So, and he was friends with the photographer.
Okay,
so there wasn't any like release or contract or things like that.
Okay.
Now, what happens a lot of times in, I guess, the world of intellectual property is that pictures are the intellectual property of the photographer,
correct,
not of the subject.
Correct. I mean, you have instances like in Shutterstock, like and all that, where the model gets paid X amount,
Yes,
and then the photographer
but
owns
it's of the
rights.
photographer.
Right.
Now, where things get a little muddy is when a photographer uses the image of someone's likeness for their benefit. So, for example, if I see somebody who's a public figure and I take a picture of them, and now this becomes this massive thing, right? That's different because I'm using their likeness for my commercial gain without their permission, right?
Okay.
So that's where it becomes a little bit trickier. Because even because you can't capitalize on someone's likeness, but again, it's very tricky because, for example, a paparazzi, if you are a celebrity and a paparazzi takes a picture of you and you post that picture on your Instagram or whatever, the paparazzi can sue you because it's their intellectual property.
They're the photographer.
And
that's why they can always sell it to these tabloids.
Yes, and I forget who there was recently. Was it Rihanna? There was recently, like in the last couple of months, a big time celebrity that posted a picture that a paparazzi had taken at her. I don't know where she found the picture, and she posted on her Instagram, and they were suing her, right? So photographers own the intellectual property of the picture,
of the image,
not the subject, right? So obviously, this photographer took the picture of the baby and
sold it to Nirvana, and here we are.
Sold it probably to the record company or whatever, and the rest is history. Right? I could understand if somewhere in the trajectory of the last 30 years, the baby, the baby, or his family may have asked for some type of compensation.
And that would have been right.
But a lawsuit 30 years later basing it on child pornography and all this stuff, that's where I think a lot of people are just really like lost on that, because I think that the disservice that's doing is that child pornography is a very, very real thing. Yes. And child sex labor is a real thing. Yeah. That many times is done through the medium of photography. So you're sort of
trivializing a little.
You're trivializing it. You're watering down a very, very, very serious allegation with very, the child pornography and things like that are things that require a very specific intent. Yeah, exactly. Right. And
because if not, anybody who takes a picture of their kid at a year old in the bathtub is a purveyor of kiddie porn.
Right. So. Yeah, I think that I like to keep an open mind of people that make certain allegations after years of having sustained trauma, but I think that this is just really, really out there.
This seems a little money grubby to me.
What did you think when you first heard it?
I thought it was full of crap. Like, quite honestly, in my opinion, the minute that it was like, I saw the thing about kiddie porn and all that, it's just like, it seems like you're reaching.
Yeah.
You know,
he said something along the lines of like, oh, it's like really traumatizing to him when he goes to like, let's say a baseball game and he thinks like, oh, everybody in the stadium has seen my penis.
okay, first of all, I hope it's not the same size. Second of all, like, how do they know that? Because again, we're talking about an image of a 4-month-old baby. Even me, you have seen my baby pictures, and I look pretty much the same. At 4 months old to now, like, unless I go around telling people, hey, that's me in the cover of Nirvana. Hey, that's me in the cover of Nirvana.
Right.
Hey, that's me in the cover of Nirvana. The average person is not going to know. So
And
it's almost a vicious cycle because you're saying like people know, right? But how are they finding out? Because you are going around saying
baby nudity is not considered pornography. That's why there could be
skin so soft and all
right.
those things,
Even advertisements that show kids' butts and stuff like that.
Pampers.
So yeah, it's really
to me, it's one of those frivolous lawsuits that it's just like, dude, if you're unhappy because there's no compensation because of the raw deal you got, fair. I'm with you.
Yeah, because I could understand being like annoyed that my image as a baby was used in one of the most iconic
it's still on t-shirts
album
today.
covers ever, right? That still generates
revenue,
a considerable amount of money every year.
Right.
Because
and I don't get shit.
For God's sake, like
Hot Topic has it.
Target has that t-shirt.
Right.
So I mean it's made it down to Target.
Right.
So you know what that picture means, right?
I have no idea.
You don't know
I don't know the meaning of that picture.
Oh man. Okay, you're not a Nirvana fan like
No,
I was.
no.
It's a kind of criticism of capitalism.
Oh man, okay.
And look at the irony in that.
Yeah. Full circle.
Yeah, full circle. Because
circle
the baby chasing the dollar.
Well, I like to chase money too, so maybe that's why I would not have gotten it.
Yeah, so yeah. Oye, ¿qué me dices tú? This is another muddy, sticky situation.
Oh my god.
What's up with that whole OnlyFans banning sexually explicit content? And they reversed it.
They reversed it.
Do you think it was a publicity stunt?
I still don't know.
Okay, so for our listeners who don't know, so OnlyFans is this narcissistic medium in which people...
Hey, but you know what? There's a market for everyone.
There is, where people
Charge a subscription
to
their page.
And this is regular Joe Schmoes.
Yeah.
right?
It's amateur.
I can have an OnlyFans. You can have an OnlyFans. You, listener, can have an OnlyFans.
Some of you may, for all we know.
Some of you may, yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. Juanita, listening to us, can have an OnlyFans.
Juanita may have an OnlyFans of just her feet.
Yeah. Or a Sexo Criollo.
Exactly. We don't know.
That's a good name. Sexo Criollo.
Should that be our rapper name?
Sexo Criollo. Who knows? Maybe la abuela,
That's true.
There is a market for everything.
As OnlyFans, that's proven.
Exactly. So yeah, anybody can be a porn star. That's pretty much what it is.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, the porn industry has changed a lot, and we know that at the end of the day, just like any studio system, it's about the studio making money. The sex workers, the actors, are not the ones really reaping the benefit, and so OnlyFans, at the end of the day, was a way for them to set up their own way, make their money, because I think OnlyFans only took
we'll get to that
10% or something.
We'll get to that in a minute. So,
but basically, OnlyFans was built on the back of porn.
Yes,
no pun intended.
But before we get there, so this week or earlier this week, OnlyFans stated, because OnlyFans is like a service provider, if you will, right? It's where you, Joe Schmo, can set up a page with videos of you doing all sorts of things, and people pay a subscription to watch you,
right? Which you set,
right? So this week, OnlyFans said that they were removing sexually explicit material from their service, from their provider, which makes me think, so what would be left?
Right, exactly.
Right. Anyway, so then they reversed it, but in those 2 or 3 days,
really, it wasn't even a week.
lot of people got pissed off. So I guess the topic of conversation that I wanted to bring up is, like, what are your thoughts on this whole OnlyFans phenomenon?
So, okay, I don't have an issue with it from the perspective of, I know you saying that it's like narcissistic and it's like
I think there's
I think
level of narcissism.
I think fair enough. I think there is a level of narcissism, but I think that even, like let's move away from OnlyFans. Like, I think even to get into porn, there's a level of narcissism, right? That you think you are good enough that people want to watch you have sex, right? I mean, I think it's not that far gone of a conclusion, right? And I think that at least through OnlyFans, a lot of these people were doing it in their own homes, in their, they controlled the environment, they controlled the partners that they were performing with. They set their rates. I don't remember what the division is that OnlyFans keeps, but it's a lot more favorable to the creator. So I mean, it's not a bad thing, I guess, in the sense of like, look, if you're going to become a sex worker and that's the avenue you want to take, at least there's a certain safety precaution level to it, where if you go to a studio, you're not the one in control, especially if you're not a quote unquote name. You're showing up and it's like, all right, well, guess what? You're going to do 12 scenes right now with 14 different people in the next 3 hours, and the working conditions, and maybe there's not testing. And I mean, again, these just, there's a lot of...
I agree with everything you said. I specifically agree because, not that I'm an expert in the porn industry by no means, but that's something that you always hear about the porn industry, how especially young women are exploited.
Yeah.
By
Rashida Jones has a fantastic documentary called Hot Girls Wanted.
Right. You hear that time and time again, how especially younger people,
Yeah.
And a lot of times people with substance abuse problems and stuff get involved in this, and then they make these decisions that follow them the rest of their life, and, they're being manipulated.
They're not based on their own desire,
right?
But,
by these
outside factors,
studios and these people within the system that control their monetary gain and whatever. Fine, I agree with everything you said. My whole thing about
I'm just surprised it became so popular.
My whole thing about it, and I have seen a lot of people, just regular everyday people that have OnlyFans, and my whole thing about it is like. Good for them. You do you.
Listen, if I didn't have a
You
family
do
that
you.
was worried about finding out, maybe I would do it too.
Just think,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm cute.
I don't know. I find discretion so attractive.
Right, but that's also why you would not become a porn actor.
But it's not even. I don't even see it from a moral standpoint.
No. But I'm not even. God knows I'm not either.
But I just. I don't know. I think discretion is so attractive. I think that people that just there's something just. I don't know if this is because of social media or something. There is an attractiveness on all sorts of, not only physical, but just even a connection and mental and all that, to wanting to find things out about someone. There being a certain mystery, and I just think that for me, I'm not judging people that do it. I'm not judging the medium.
You're only talking from you.
I'm talking from you. I just I don't know. I find that such a sort of kind of turn off.
But I think the same could be said even on a much smaller level. Instagram, TikTok, people who live their entire lives online.
And I think that's
right. But I'm saying at least the OnlyFans people have the courtesy of being like, listen, you're going to pay and you're going to get something for it.
Yeah, no. No, I agree. But you're talking now about people having sex. And again, I'm not even judging it from a moral standpoint. If you want to do that, then do it, because that's my whole mantra. You do what you do, as long as you're not hurting anybody else.
Go for it.
Right. You do you, even if you got an eye roll. You do you. But I don't know. I just think that and I think that also a lot of it, for better or for worse, things having to do with sex and porn are still very taboo. For better or for worse.
Yeah.
And that has a way of haunting you, and that the internet never forgets. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been a little bit surprised with this whole uptick and uproar of
that it's become such a mainstream
thing of people that don't care that this material is out there.
I am, but I'm not, because again, we live in such a public world where, for a lot of people, their self-validation is based on how many likes, how many comments, how many followers. So the next logical step of that evolution would be how many people are going to pay to follow me.
I was about to ask you that. Do you think that the rise of OnlyFans, and again, particularly to...
And there's a competitor, by the way. There's OnlyFans, and then there's Just for Fans.
Oh. I love the meme that is like of a fan store. Un ventilador.
No, my favorite meme though was of when they were looking like OnlyFans was gonna, remove the porn essentially, and it was like OnlyFans. The meme about the guy that's walking with his girlfriend and looking back. So the girl in the front was OnlyFans, like with a big X through it, and the guy looking back was a Spirit Halloween.
Oh, we know how that goes.
They swoop in.
Yeah. And I feel that they've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's like Spirit of Halloween ahorita will be at a closed Walmart. Like,
and un flea market.
yeah. A stadium, a closed stadium.
Closed stadium.
Is Spirit of Halloween. Anyway, actually, that's a good point that you brought. Do you think that like the rise of OnlyFans, particularly when it comes down to like porn and like explicit videos, do you think that is a symptom of this social media-esque world we live in now?
Living your life in public.
Right, that it's all validation. Because I still get a kick about regular, everyday people that on Instagram put that they're public figures.
Thank you.
Because they have 1,500 followers.
Thank you.
And it's like, I have more followers than that.
Thank you.
I would never put on my Instagram, it's como que that you and I now, because we have a podcast.
I have less followers on my personal, and I, because of the podcast, can make a more legitimate claim to be a public figure, and I don't put that on my thing.
Yeah, people are like, public figure. It's like, a public figure to
what?
who? Like, your HOA? Like, are you famous among your homeowners association? Like,
I know fame has levels, but man.
Yeah, right? So do you think that it's a result of that? Like, that's like the next step that people are so...
It's inevitable, I
People
think.
just want to like share so much that they're like sharing having sex.
Yes. And I think that, I mean, the argument could be made that, some people know how to have sex on camera and that's more of a talent than other people. But at the end of the day, having sex doesn't really require a talent per se. Right? So think about
All it requires is a good phone stand.
and
tripod.
And the circle lighting, the ring lighting.
Right. Which you could get at Walmart for $9.99. I have one here in this room.
You can get one at Five Below for $10.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. I actually bought one the other day.
Yeah. Well, the one that I have here that I just took down for us to record,
Yes.
I get my money's worth out of that. Although I don't do any on the...
Not that money's worth. Not that
Let's
money's
just say
worth.
that when I have Zoom meetings, my lighting is on point.
Yes, it's like a fashion show over here. But I think as it's just an easier way to become famous. And look, you know what? We all watch porn. I mean, let's be realistic about it. There's a reason that OnlyFans exists. If nobody watched porn, OnlyFans wouldn't be a thing. Pornhub wouldn't be a thing. Xtube wouldn't be a thing, right? Like, there's a reason.
But the thing
about it's something that even if where I'm going with this is, it's an easy way to get attention because you know what? Everybody likes sex,
right? But
so you don't even have to do anything.
OnlyFans came out, like porn was by porn stars, and porn stars were very
actors,
very specific people that they. For whatever amount of time or for whatever reason, because the porn actors have like a very short,
turns them in, turns them out,
right? Made a very conscious decision that this was what they were going to do, and they were going to obviously, I imagine that being a porn star, like a legit porn star, I would imagine, comes with a professional porn star comes with a certain bullet points. Lifestyle wise, right?
Okay, there's certain expectations,
right? Like you have to make appearances, and
yes, you have to go to the
depending
AVNs,
on who you are, you could be a brand, right?
Like a Jenna Jameson,
right? So there's a whole like spectacle about that,
right?
So I feel that these were people that like, okay, I am getting into this industry.
These are people who I think just want to become famous, and they're like, I'm gonna gain my fame and my fortune in however I can. Okay.
But again, the thing with OnlyFans, and which is the thing that it's funny because I'm a very, very open-minded person, but for some things I'm like very naive. And I have seen people like just on Instagram that have OnlyFans, and I'm like, oh my god, but like your Instagram is filled with pictures of you like walking your dog and like you know, crafting.
Well,
and,
to your point, discretion.
and I'm like, and you have an OnlyFans, like.
In all fairness, there are OnlyFans pages that are not about porn.
Right.
They're the minority. They're the
Right.
minority, but they do
that's
exist.
what I'm trying to say. That like, I'm naive when it comes down to certain things. That I think like, I feel that for a lot of people is like such a, because again, I'm looking at it from that more old fashioned view. Right. I think that's such a like bad judgment call, because like that is going to be out there forever. True. And it's like, I would feel so like, but that's me. I would feel so just uncomfortable with having that content out at all, but let alone forever, because the internet never forgets. Right. And that's the part where I'm like, wow, like I wonder what the thought process of an everyday person like you and I, an everyday person that goes to work at 9 a.m. and comes back home, you know, to say, you know, I'm going to start filming myself having sex or doing whatever, and I'm going to put it up online.
It's very lucrative. I will say that it's very lucrative, and they did see an uptick during COVID last year.
I know. I just
but that makes sense, because people getting laid off, you're at home.
No.
I mean, you know, you need to earn a living,
right? Again, for me. Again, I'm very, very open-minded, but there's some things I'm very conservative about. Mm-hmm. And to me, there's nothing more attractive than discretion and modesty in a certain sense, you know? Yeah. I think that just not only attractive in a sexual or physical sense, but just interesting. Like, I think it's so interesting. What is so, I find annoying when you meet someone and within 2 minutes, you know their whole life story. Like, they just spit out, like, their whole life story. And it's like, but why are you telling me this? Like, why?
Yeah, but you know what? But you and I are also the type of people that people feel that they can just come and start telling things to.
I know, and it shouldn't.
You and I are the type of people that people will literally sit down with us, and it's like within 10 minutes, they'll walk away, and I'll be like, Jose, did you know this person? And they'll be like, but they were here for a minute and a half.
I'll never forget that some years ago, I was at the Mattress Giant in Hialeah, as I would be. Y una señora, I was buying a bed frame.
Okay.
Y la señora, takes my driver's license. She's like, ay, tu cumpleaños tuyo en octubre. Ay, mira cómo es de mi hijo. Mira, porque mi hijo se llama ta. Y este es mi hijo. Y pero ella no vive en la casa. Pero él vino en la casa la semana pasada porque yo y mi esposo compramos un refrigerador y necesitamos que me ayudara a mover el refrigerador. Porque no, porque él está viviendo ahora solo porque se acaba de divorciar. Porque imagínate que la mujer de él lo dejó en bla, bla. And I'm like, this woman has just told me her entire life story and that of her adult child.
And I'm just here for a queen mattress.
Yes, and I'm just here for a bed frame. Like, give me my... Of course... I love that. Those are the little...
You don't interrupt them.
No, those are the little Hialeah moments or Miami moments that I love. I love. And I'm there like, sí, señora. I was like, this is amazing. But I find that like modesty and humility and in that sense is so, interesting and attractive. But, why do that when you live in a world where you could buy your followers and your likes and people pay to see you do things,
Exactly. But you know who has probably some interesting Miami stories like you just mentioned and moments. And she also uses her social media platform, but for good. Is this week's guest. I didn't know how the hell I was going to transition from OnlyFans to this week's guest, to be quite honest with you. But this week we have with us Natalie Morales. Mm-hmm. She's an actress and a director, writer. You may know her from... She's been on so many things.
I know. She's been like... where do you start?
The Grinder with Rob Lowe. She was in Dead to Me on Netflix with Linda Cardellini and Christina Applegate. She was in Stuber with Dave Bautista. And she just directed her movie Plan B. Well, not just. I mean, she finished it like last year. And her new movie, Language Lessons, is coming out in a couple weeks as well. And you know what? I know we say this all the time, but I love this interview.
Yeah, I did. She was fun. She was great.
I love this interview.
She was great. And what was so good about her, as you will hear in the interview, is that she's one of us.
Literally. Like, I mean, when we say she's one of us, like, well, you'll hear it. But, without further ado, guys, here's our chat with Natalie Morales.
Oye, mi gente, it's Ish. You know from listening to us, we love the gym, but there's no reason to spend lots of money every month just to stay healthy. That's where YouFit comes in. You've heard me say it many times. I freaking love YouFit. It's got state-of-the-art equipment, and you're not on top of one another, which is a must in this day of social distancing. And memberships start at just $10 a month. Why pay more? It's not like paying more instantly gives you muscles or anything. Plus, many locations have group fitness classes and affordable personal training to further help you achieve your goals. I mean, you're unique. Shouldn't your workouts be also? Así que what are you waiting for? Find your fit at youfit.com to find a club nearest you. After all, only you can be your own fitness hero.
Hey, mi gente, welcome back. Now, this week with us, we get excited and we love all of our guests. But this week, I think more excited because actor, director, writer, activist, but most importantly, fellow Southwest Miami Senior High alum Natalie Morales is with us on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us, Natalie.
I'm so happy to be here finally. I'm happy to talk to you guys. This is so exciting. Yes, particularly this year, I have been a very busy person for sure. It's been kind of nuts. Yeah.
That's a great thing.
I have to tell you, I'm like super excited, not only because obviously you've been very successful. I was doing a little bit of research, as to your background, and it's like you're from Kendall, you're Cuban, and it's like you went to Southwest. It's like, hello. Like,
I will say I don't know who wrote my Wikipedia, but I'm not from Kendall. I'm from fucking Westchester, man.
That's
what? Okay, even better.
Southwest. She's got to be from Westchester.
Yeah, I'm from Southwest. I know. Anybody who knows, I'm from Westchester.
We've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of Cuban Americans and even people that have been from Miami, but never have we had Westchester, Cuban, who went to the same high school we did.
Sure, I'm sure. It's exciting for me too, because I don't get to do interviews with people that are literally from the same place as me.
Yeah, I'm sure we hung out at the same places, literally.
I mean, there's only so many places to hang out.
Next time we have an interview, we're just gonna literally have it on the corner of La 40 y la 87, literally
just
on the
sitting outside of Arbiters, seeing what that is.
Yeah.
I just was there and I saw they changed the sign, and it made me so sad.
Yep.
Well, they updated the sign, but it's still yellow.
It's sure, but it's not the old vintage sign, and I was like, oh, that was so it was just thing.
Yeah. So now that we've established what the three of us have in common, a lot of people, we always like when we have people on the show, that have been so successful. A lot of people sometimes maybe don't realize how they started or what was their big break. So tell us, how did we get from Arbiters hot dogs on 87th and Bird Road to the success that you've had?
It wasn't an easy road, but actually my first I moved out here when I was 20 because there wasn't I did do a commercial. I did a couple, this is a top secret, but I did do a couple of novelas when I lived in Miami when I was 18 or 19.
No.
Very, very small roles, because I don't know if it's still this way, but at the time they were like, you don't speak Spanish with a neutral accent, which just means a Mexican accent. And so I was like a bartender and a maid. They didn't let me have any, speaking roles. Could you imagine though, what a different career trajectory that would have been? Would have been so completely different. And I did do a CVS commercial when I lived in Miami when I was 18, which was my first thing that I did, which was very, very exciting for me. It was CVS was buying all the Eckards, and and they were the point of the commercial was that the pharmacy was much faster than the Eckards pharmacy, and so I played a kind of like a slutty teenage girl whose mom was gonna go get a prescription medicine, and she was like, I'm going to the pharmacy, I'll be back. And I'm like, Mommy, I call my boyfriend, I'm like, my mom went to get prescriptions, she's going to be forever, come over. And then they both show up at the same time, and the mom's like, oh no, and I'm sure it's somewhere online. It's very embarrassing, but very funny. But anyway, there unfortunately wasn't a lot of opportunity for me in Miami with this particular career path, And so I moved out here when I was 20. I went to, I did plays at Miami-Dade and at FIU, and I didn't really know that I could or wanted to be an actor or a director until I was in high school when I did drama classes and stuff. Like that freshman year of high school is when everything changed for me. I went to St. Agatha before that, from like kindergarten to 8th grade, and then I was gonna go to, oh my God, what's the name?
That's where I went for CCD.
Yeah.
Where I took my communion. It's like
there you go. Yeah, it's all circular. Ugh, why can't I remember the name of the magnet school? There's a magnet school that does a bunch of different magnets. It's not New World. I applied to do a magnet for law. But anyway, I got in when I was 14 to go there, and I was so excited because I wanted to be a lawyer. And I got all the paperwork finally, and it said Natalie Morales. So I called them and I said, hey, you spelled my name wrong. And they're like, no, we got your address wrong. It's the wrong person. It's a lottery, so we picked Natalia Morales, not you.
Wow.
So the last minute, I had to like scramble. I didn't have a school to go to, and it was like the last end of the summer before high school started. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Southwest, but I don't know anybody there. It's like, nor had I ever like worn my own clothes to school. I had only done like my little uniform. I was so nervous. So I went to, I was like, let me take summer school classes so that I at least get to know some people before the big school year starts. So I was like, I'll take guitar, which I play a little bit of, and I'll do like photography. And they were like, oh, someone just took the last spot in photography. Do you want to try drama? And I was like, okay. And then that was it. And like I met some people that I met in that class are like still my very best friends today. And it really totally changed my life forever. And actually the first big job that I got out here was CSI Miami. I did a guest star on CSI Miami, ironically enough. It was a lot of like auditioning and bravado and,
Set Miami Hustle.
Yeah, I'm going to move to Hollywood. I'll have an agent in like a month, and then I'll be on TV in like 2 months. And none of that happened. It was true, but you have that sort of... I also say, by the way, something that set me apart coming from Miami and coming out here, and there's a lot of Cuban women that look white, and so that's a little easier, or look like the version of a Latina that you would stereotypically imagine in your head, which is like curvy and like, like long black wavy hair, whatever, right? Or
right.
Just like a stereotypical like Latina look, even though we know that Latino people come in all shapes and colors and sizes, right? Like Argentina exists. There are blonde and blue-eyed Latin people. Why is it this narrow viewpoint? But when I was first starting out, like, I'm brown, so I definitely don't look white, and so I didn't fit into the white categories, but I also wasn't the like Latina stereotype. Like, part of the reason I left Miami is because I don't have a huge butt and nobody hit on me. So like I was just not successful in Miami at all on the dating scene by any means.
You realize that's the pull quote, right, for the episode?
Sure, fine.
What I think is so interesting in hearing your story is that it sounds like you got into this sort of by a mistake. That's quite remarkable.
I mean, but like if you think about the lawyer aspect, is the same sort of performative thing that drew me to it. I was like imagining myself in court defending somebody, right? And the reason I decided not to become a lawyer is because I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to defend like people I don't like.
Right.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is that something that I think is unique for me being from Miami and being Latina is that because I was not a minority in Miami, not only are Latin people the majority, but they're also Cuban people are the majority. Like I always talk about Southwest and like what that was like. I feel like it was really 80% Latin and like 75% Cuban, and everything else was kind of jumbled in the rest of that, right? And so I have the like confidence of a mediocre white man because I didn't grow up with that like you're a minority thing that many people that are minorities in other places grew up with. I didn't have that in Miami. I think that gave me a leg up, to be honest, because I just took every rejection like on the chin and was like, all right, I can do the next thing. Let's figure out if that guy can do it, I can do it, and that's, I guess, a long-winded way of answering how did I get from Miami to where I am now.
Not long-winded. You're Cuban. We can't tell the story in under 3 minutes. Come on,
right.
I gotta say, the first time I noticed you was on the Grinder, with Rob Lowe and Fred Savage.
Yeah.
And there was. I've said this before about certain actors that at that point I just knew your name, like, oh, she's great, and Natalie Morales, and just instantly I was just like, I think I know that girl. You know what I mean? Like, there was something about you that was relatable and that just felt like, again, now that we know you, we literally went to this, we grew up in the same neighborhood. I get it. And I think there's just something about the characters that you play that it comes across, and it's very funny, and in a way you're almost like sardonic, if I could use that word, without being unapproachable. And I just gotta tell you, like, that's not easy, girl. And like you pulled it off. You pulled it off.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, specifically, yes, in that Grinder role, that's definitely what I was playing, for sure. That does come sort of naturally to me, I guess. I am very blunt in general, and very honest, so people can cast me in those roles for sure. But yeah, it's fun to do. It's fun to make fun of Rob Lowe on national television. Exactly.
I have a question for you about your role on Dead to Me. In that series, you play a Cuban American, which actually I love that, because the way they introduced it, it's one of those things where you were saying it so people would know, but as a Cuban American, it felt like a lived experience where you were talking about your mother in the nursing home, and you were kind of like, we're Cuban, we don't do this, we do that. Like, it wasn't just like, hi, I'm Cubana, type of thing. Was that written initially, or is that something that you brought?
No, I think they wrote it. They do have some Latinx writers on the staff, and also the creators of the show are Liz, who's incredible. She once they cast me, sort of wrote it, some parts of it for me. It's cool that you bring that up, because it's something that I've tried to do in my career in general, and have lost roles because of it, but I think ultimately it was the right thing. I never wanted to play a stereotypical Latina, because I felt like for so long people that were not Latin were writing Latin roles, and it was like everything that I read or saw was like, we just burst into like random dancing at any moment, or like I call everyone Papi, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't feel realistic to my experience, or many people's experience that I knew. So like, I guess I kind of made a career out of like taking white girl roles and making them mine. And like I said before, I didn't fit into that already, and so then I kind of shunned it in general. Like, I wanted everything that I played with everything that I do, like the fact that I'm Cuban or Latinx or queer or whatever it is just like a part of who I am, and likewise, when representing those characters on TV and film, should be a part of who they are, not everything about them. And for so long, any kind of like marginalized community or minority actor or character was written as the identity that made them a minority is the only thing that's interesting about them, when that we all know that's not the case, So like, I really like that they did that on Dead to Me, because that character that I play, she's Cuban, that's her mom, that's part of it, it's part of her history, it's part of that experience, but it's not the thing about her,
Right.
In the time that you've been in Hollywood, what are some of the changes that you've seen to the topic that we're talking about now, in terms of not only inclusion, but proper and authentic representation?
I definitely see a bit of a shift, which is exciting to me, and it's hard to know whether I would feel this way if I was in the exact same place in my career as I was when I first started, because obviously more opportunities are being afforded to me now because I've done more and I've built my career in a certain way. So I have more opportunities now based on that, not necessarily based on how the industry has changed. But I will say, I think, when I was first starting out, it was very, very rare that to have a female lead of something was innovative, right? So to have anything but that was like, I was playing the best friends or the girlfriends, or if lucky, the love interest, or the girl who eye rolls at Rob Lowe, but like not. I wasn't playing. It wasn't the lead roles. It wasn't the like this show is about this person, or directors weren't getting these opportunities as often as possible. There's definitely like a shift in at least the conscious knowing of the imbalance of power that has existed, because like any other business, like if you control the business, then you give opportunities to your friends and your sons and your and the people that happen, and there are people outside of those lines that you can hire, but you're going to hire them for like smaller parts, and that's what it was for years and years and years. And now I think we're starting to see a shift in that. Like, so I definitely have seen that there's a little bit of a shift where it's not so out of the question that I would have a lead role in something.
Yeah, no, and I think you mentioned something very true, which is, and you just recently this year released your first directorial movie, Plan B, which. Kudos. It was
Thank you.
Adorable. It was funny. It was heartfelt. It was everything, right? And even then I think obviously people want to shorthand, right, and say like, oh, it's a female version of American Pie, or it's
right.
It's a minority version of this. I work in marketing, so from that perspective I understand the sell, right? It doesn't give it its own credit, right? It almost just feels
yeah. The more of them there are, the less you can you say that, right? So like I knew Plan B was going to be compared to Booksmart because it's like the only one of its kind,
True.
Right? And so the more of these that we make, then you don't get those comparisons. It's not like you don't really say like a TV show about girls anymore. You kind of just like, this is a TV show and it's starring women, because there are more and more of those being made. But like, besides Booksmart, and I think, Plan B goes a little further than Booksmart as far as like the R-ratedness of it.
God bless you for that, by the way.
Thank you. We deserve it. We deserve it. That's what I wanted. I was like, there's never been a movie, like we've seen these teen movies a million times, right. These like teen quest movies, and besides Booksmart, which came out when we had already started developing, like we had already had the script and we were already doing that, and then Booksmart came out, which was very exciting. But besides Booksmart, there wasn't any movies about teenage girls that were like as dirty and as raunchy and as crazy as all the other teen movies we had seen our whole lives that starred guys, And besides that, the quest in those movies is always like, let's get the alcohol, or let's get to the cool party, or let's get to, like that's the quest in Booksmart. The Booksmart quest is like, let's find the cool party. And the biggest issue in Booksmart is that they got into really, really good schools, and so did everyone else. And I was like, from a personal standpoint, and also on behalf of people, not only girls, but people all over America that are not like in LA or New York and some city where these movies are typically set, that there are bigger, more realistic issues. Like, for example, they're trying to get the Plan B pill. They're trying to get contraception, just like basic healthcare. And you can still build a big comedy around a real stakes, real issues. And so I thought that was exciting and an interesting way to subvert that genre and, give you the structure of something really, really well and that is familiar and comfortable to see and to watch, but then insert these things like, oh, they're children of immigrant parents and the quest that they want is different. And that was really fun to do and also very important for me to do.
And congratulations, by the way. The movie has stellar reviews.
Thanks, yeah.
A lot of people like to not give a big review, but I mean, when they're good, they're good. And are you more projects
yeah. I mean, I actually, how do I say this? This was not intentional. It was just because of how things happened last year. I directed 2 movies last year.
Overachiever much?
Like I said, not on purpose. Plan B.
Everybody else gained weight during COVID. You directed 2 movies.
I also gained weight and I also made banana bread, so I wasn't that far off from everybody else. Don't worry. I also downloaded and became obsessed with TikTok, so we're all in the same boat. I was supposed to film Plan B, like we had done pre-production and like all this prep for it. Like people's hair was bleached, houses were painted, everything was happening, and we got shut down the Friday before the Monday when we were supposed to start filming in March of 2020. So we didn't know if the movie was going to happen at all. We had no idea what was going to happen. And then Mark Duplass, who I had worked with before because I had directed a couple of episodes of his show Room 104 that was on HBO. He called me and he was like, I have this weird idea. Do you want to work on it together? And so we wrote a movie and we shot it in the middle of lockdown, just kind of experimentally, just to see what would happen. And then while I was editing that, Plan B came back and they were like, let's shoot this. So I was like editing on the weekends and also doing some reshoots on the weekends for this movie that is called Language Lessons that I made with Mark. And then I was shooting Plan B. And then Language Lessons went to a bunch of festivals like Berlin. It won the audience award at South by Southwest, which was really exciting. That's like Congrats. Their biggest award. Thank you. And then Plan B came out. And then now Language Lessons is going to come out into the public. I think actually it's going to be playing in Miami at the Tower Theater in September. So I'm hoping, I'm really hoping, depending on the COVID situation, I'm hoping that we can have a premiere in Miami. So that would be really exciting for me.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
And in general, the movie is half in Spanish. Very near and dear to me. I also play a Cuban in the movie. So yeah, there is more directing to be had, but I'm also acting in different things and doing the most.
So
yeah.
You mentioned, that in Language Lessons, you're playing a Cuban again, right? Which, why wouldn't you? It's what you are, and you wave that flag very proudly. Again, not to bring the beat down, right? But given that it's everything that's happening in Cuba of late, I mean, you have been fantastic on using your platform to really get information out there and try and, I don't want to say change the narrative, but educate the narrative, shall we say, to the point where we have not so subtly just reposted lots of your things, because, it's just, you were so great about, what information you posted and all of that. And, obviously you grew up here, but you're not, you haven't been living here for a while in Miami. And so it's we've been to LA, we know there's a Cuban community out there, but it's different. How have you felt in terms of I just gotta keep this information going, because you've really been almost nonstop. I mean, I'm starting to wonder about your sleep schedule, frankly.
Well, thank you. So am I. I was actually, what's crazy is that with all of the Plan B stuff and the Language Lesson stuff and a lot of other projects that I've been working, I was really nonstop, ridiculous hours for a year and a half. And then I was like, all right, July 11th, for a week, I'm going to just go off the grid and take time off. I went to this cabin by the lake and I was like, I'm just not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to do anything. Oh, so Cuba is doing something they have never done. And it's a completely new revolution is happening. Guess I have to be on my phone. So it's been a crazy month. I mean, not for me as much as for the people on the island who I'm trying to amplify, but we all have a different experience. But I think for people in Miami and people in the diaspora in general, little bits of Cuba everywhere on the planet, and I think that all of us, regardless of what political party we're in, although sometimes people do insert that in their conversations about Cuba, which is annoying and makes no sense to me, but regardless of, if you're a libertarian or a Republican, or even if you don't live in the United States and you have a whole different set of, even honestly, I have known Cubans who are like children of Cubans or Cubans who are somewhere else who are I kind of understand communism, but it doesn't work. You know what I mean? I've seen all sorts of political ideologies that have the same opinion about Cuba. If you have a tie to the island, like we all do, I think it's so strong. I mean, my whole family are refugees, and my grandfather was a political prisoner on both the Batista side and later on, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, he fought with Fidel against Batista, and then Fidel betrayed everybody, and he was then Fidel was after him. It was a crazy situation. I think people on all sorts of ends of that, have this similar feeling. I always say, I'm one of many, many people who grew up with a boat in their backyard that was to go kill Fidel at some point. like that their grandfather had in their backyard. And like my grandfather and all his little old friends would have all these conversations about it all the time. And like I was always like, that's normal. Like, and that's not normal. That's so, what a crazy way to grow up. But that's how we grew up, you know? And he always, he died in 2000, but he always was like, you can't go back to the island until the Castros are no longer in power, because any money you give to tourism goes straight to the government, and like you can't support the government at all. And so me and my mom and like the rest of my family never went, although I always wanted to go because I had never been, you know. And my grandmother's sister, my mom's aunt, was very, very sick. I convinced my mom. I was like, we should go see her. We'll spend the least money possible, but this is the last time you're going to see your family. Like, we have to see her. And so we went, and it was crazy. I always tell people
when was this? What year was this that you went?
This was 2012. I wrote an op-ed about it after I went. That is in Flood magazine. If you want to look at it, it's called "Please Stop Saying You Want to Go to Cuba Before It's Ruined," because that was something I kept hearing and it was driving me crazy. But what I wanted
I wanted to ask you about that, because your tweets were unapologetically like straightforward, and you were schooling people, rightfully so, because we found ourselves in this position as well. But you know, you have a much larger platform than we do. What do you think is the greatest disconnect that people have with the reality of Cuba?
Well, okay, I definitely have an answer for that, but I'll just finish what I was saying before. Is that like being in Cuba, in Havana, I always tell people, is like having Harry Potter read to you every night your entire life, and then like being in Hogwarts. Like, it was like so weird, because you feel like you belong. You do. Some part of you really feels like that's your homeland. Like, it was undeniable, that feeling, but it was also better and worse and weirder than you might imagine, and very beautiful and very tragic and very sad. And I carry all that with me, and the people that I met, and you know, my family has had to send medicine and food and all sorts of things to Cuba, like we all have if we have family there. And I think that, to answer your question, DJ, that the disconnect is that really the people, well, there's so many reasons for this, but the biggest thing is that, one, Cuba is really good at propaganda, and we don't see it and we don't know it because we have direct contacts into the island, and we have family there, and even if we don't have family there, we have family that came from there that told us directly what it was like. So not only does Cuba have excellent propaganda all over the world that describes this sort of like utopia that exists there, the reason they believe it is because Cuba has all of the journalists that are selected to report on Cuba must be handpicked by the government. So all of the respectable media that has come out of Cuba for the last 60 years has come from people that are approved by the government. And so when people see Cuba, like the only place outside of Cuba, the only place that has this clear image, and that where this is as big of a deal as it is because we know what actually goes on there, is South Florida. Everywhere else, even in the United States, people don't know, and because they don't know, they don't care. There's a lot of disdain for people in South Florida, for like Miami Cubans in general, because of the way that they voted in the last election, that convinces other people that whatever they care about can't be important, or, you know, or is some sort of like Trumpy thing when it has nothing to do with that. It doesn't matter what it is. It's
beside the point.
Yeah, I think that there are people like, I mean, I'm not trying to get political in any way. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent person because I think political parties are stupid. But like people like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are not great spokesmen for the Cuban American experience in the eyes of a lot of people. And so the voices that we have coming out of America, which are the only voices advocating for Cuba, have been like mixed. And so that's why I think it's so important to amplify the voices on the island, and not what I want, not what you guys want, not even what our parents want, because it's their homeland, but it's not their home anymore. This is their home. They have the United States, they have Miami, the Cuban people do not. And if the voices keep getting louder over here than over there because they're cutting the internet over there and because they don't have outlets and because they don't have, a way to translate or freedom or a way to get their voice out, and we keep talking over them. I've heard a lot of people in Miami calling for like American intervention without knowing how horrible that would be for Cuba and how impossible it actually is at this point. You know what I mean? Like what that would do and how that would set it off, because it's an emotional response. It's an emotional response of like wanting to like avenge your grandparents and your parents and wanting to do things for them. And even for them, it's that. But you have to think about it from the perspective of the people who have been on the island this whole time and are just like kind of seeing clearly in a way that they haven't in 60 years, because they got like, they got internet widely received in 2 years ago. Yeah. So that has been like the biggest difference in making them be able to organize with each other and in having like, illegal independent media, supporting them and supporting what they want. And that's why I've been so vocal about it, because it literally is the most concrete way we can help, is to continue to talk about it and continue to put it in people's heads so that all the people in the rest of the world in the United States, that I have had so many people be like, it has been a difficult month for me mental health wise on the internet, because there are Marxists and communists who call me all sorts of horrific names online.
We've got that.
Join the club.
Course. Yeah,
we're all part of that horrible club.
But I think that what the reason why I think it's so important for people to speak out, whether it's just individuals, micro influencers, since that's a word, and even people like you, that you're a celebrity, have such a big platform, is because one of the biggest disappointments I had with this whole Cuba debacle in this last month was that, and I made a video about it that sort of went viral, is that, in the last couple of years, we as a society here in the U.S., we have said, we gotta listen. We gotta listen to women in the Me Too movement when they're telling you they're being harassed. We got to listen to black men when they're telling you what their lived experience is with law enforcement. We have to listen to Asian Americans. We have to listen to trans, men and women who are, treated inhumanely. Yeah. And, we've come along so far in terms of having to listen to people, rightfully so, because we have to listen to their lived experiences. And what really disappointed me with this whole Cuba situation now was that you were seeing these videos and these protests of these people in Cuba telling you what they wanted: freedom. They weren't saying stop the embargo, stop this. They were saying freedom, libertad. This is what they were saying. And I feel that people here in the U.S., when it came down to this, they were so gung-ho on their position on whatever it may be, and their political stance or on who they don't like, that they were not listening to what people there were saying. So going back to you, it's important that you have hammered on Twitter, like every day, like all these tweets and all these retweets showing the reality of what living there is and what they have gone through. So I think it's very important that we can't stay silent, at least.
No. And a learning experience for me as an American, and like looking at myself and going, shit, have I done this too? Is I've talked about exactly what you just talked about on Twitter, and so many people from so many other countries, Venezuela, some people from the Ukraine, some people from different places have told me that they've talked about their experience in their country, and Americans almost exclusively have been like, no, actually, let me tell you what it's like in the place where you're from. I know more than you do. So I think it's a very common American thing to like, and we're just experiencing it for the first time, because we have this outside connection, for people to tell us what it's like for us when they have no idea.
Americasplaining.
Yeah, I guess it's a thing, because I didn't realize it before. I also was so disappointed with that, and I think the more I've been thinking about it, and the more that I've been like, half of my brain has been split in trying to inform people, and then part of that was being taken up by what felt like a barrage of comments back that, like I was saying, were like awful insults by like Marxists or communists, which is like, by the way, in the guidebook, like that is how you deal with your enemies or people who oppose you in a Marxist guidebook, is you call them every worst name in the book. So just so you know that. And then having people just continually bring up the embargo and me going like, yes, I know it sucks, but that's not what they're protesting. Like, right. It didn't work. It's stupid. You can have whatever opinions you have, but the embargo is not jailing them. The embargo is not beating them. The embargo is not, like
preventing food.
If there is food for the government and food for tourists, why isn't there food for the people? That is a mismanagement there. Like, Cuba is a fertile land with tons of soil. They export everything. It's badly managed, and it's a hierarchy of rich and powerful, and that's just what it is. And I think people want to believe, like, people outside of Miami that went to college and took courses and watched the fucking Motorcycle Diaries and like were like, I want to be a revolutionary and I'm wearing this Che Guevara shirt. And I think it's great because they learned all the things that Che Guevara did for other countries that were very revolutionary, and didn't learn that he was a madman and a psycho in Cuba who killed tens and thousands of people. They didn't learn that part. So they don't want to let go of the one thing that made them feel smart some time ago. And it's annoying, but I try to have patience with those people at the very least. But I think also something that we have to remember when dealing with things online is that even though those are people that are allowed, they're not the majority of people, because like I don't comment on nearly everything that I see. Like I comment barely on anything. I am taking in information, but that doesn't mean, like, the fact that I'm not sharing it or liking it doesn't mean that I didn't put it in my eyeballs, right? So the amount of people that are commenting these awful things, right or left or whatever they may be, making it about whatever their ideology is, and using the Cuban people and the Cuban struggle as a pawn currently to do that, whether for their own personal gain or whatever, is actually smaller than it seems. They're just very loud, right? And then the thing that really did, maybe this will help you, the thing that really did make me go, oh, I don't give a fuck about these people anymore, I'm just going to keep saying whatever I feel like saying, is that so many people think I'm in the CIA now. And I'm like, oh, they're crazy. Like, they're crazy. This is a... Is
that your newest project you're going to talk to us about? Are you disclosing it here first, Campero? Let me tell you.
Wouldn't I be like a really bad CIA agent if I'm talking this much about it? Like,
hey, plain sight. You're hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, but by the way, the things that you're talking about, like the videos of people protesting and the Patria Vida, like I can't tell you. Sometimes even one respected journalist wrote me and retweeted saying that song, that Patria Vida, and that those hashtags were created by the United States in order to sow like unrest in Cuba. And I'm like, what do you people do? The United States doesn't have time for this. Yeah. Cuba doesn't have oil.
They don't care.
They're not they don't care about this. This is not the 60s. It's so dumb that I stopped caring about what idiots are saying, and I'm like, I'm just gonna keep amplifying this as much as I possibly can. I know that there are several lists of demands that are coming out now from different organizations and different groups of people on the island. So they're starting to organize more and more. I've been working with different organizations. Amnesty International is one of them. Not only is Cuba SOS and Patria Vida and getting those hashtags out there and getting people asking questions, and actually like that's the nightmare for Cuba, is that the PR and their publicity of like Cuba's this great utopia is slowly starting the facade. That like facade is slowly starting to come down. So the more we talk about that, the better it is. But I do know that like there's so many things going on in the world every day that are horrific or great or steal our attention, and a news cycle is very, very quick. So people that are not us are going to forget it, and it's not going to be important, although I am going to talk about it very often, if not every day. But I also know that like a call to action makes people feel more empowered and can oftentimes be more successful than just a hashtag. So like I think that we have to support the demands that are coming out of the island. Primarily, I think something that is inarguable is getting those political prisoners out. The ones that are still in there from a month ago, from July 11th. But also, what a lot of people don't understand is that July 11th wasn't the first thing. There was protests in April. There was protests in November that were smaller, mostly created by artists, which is unbelievable, right? And there's people that are still in prison from those situations too. So I think that that's like an achievable goal, is to put international pressure on Cuba to release these prisoners, because the more they start to look like the bad guy and not the utopia to people other than the United States, because the United States already knows this, right? It's the people, and I mean that by the government, not the rest of the people, but when that PR game, when that facade starts to crumble, that's when they start to panic.
Oh, wow.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said, Natalie.
Honestly, like I loved you before, love you more now. Not gonna lie.
Thank you. I didn't know you guys before, but I love you now.
That's all that matters. So I want to kind of bring the mood a little happier, right? And again, kind of bring it back. I read somewhere that you and your writing partner are writing a script, and you've also got Phil Lord in there, another Miami boy, and your writing partner, I think she's from Miami as well.
Yeah.
And you're basically writing. I'm gonna shorthand things, right? Essentially like a Cuban American 4 Weddings and a Funeral, except it's quinces, a wedding, and a funeral and something else.
A baptism.
Claro, un bautizo, claro.
Bautismo, claro.
Claro.
Yeah,
so I mean, I want to ask, how did that come about? But we all come from the same neighborhood, so I know how it came about in your head in some way. But
I mean, we wanted to tell a story that felt like, there are a few, like, very few big blockbusters about Latinx people. I think the last one that we'll talk about In the Heights in 1 second, but I think the last big one that wasn't Coco, which was like an animated cartoon, which I think was wonderful and incredible. And I think even though it was about Mexican culture and Mexican people in general, I think many Latino people still related to it in such a deep way, not to mention people all over the world, not just Latinx people. But Selena is the last movie I can remember that, like, didn't matter what country you were from, you like repped that movie because it felt like you were like, it was somehow about you, even though it was in no way about you. Like, what do we have to do with people in Texas? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that, like, I there's a lot of things that I really liked about In the Heights, and a lot of people that I really like that made that movie. But I think that there's this. The Latino moviegoer percentage is very high. We watch so many movies, and they're not about us. We watch so many movies, and I can't remember. The LA Times did an investigation on this, and it was a couple years ago, and it was something like 8% of characters on TV and movies are Latinx, and like 4% are leads, or even something even smaller than that. And we watch movies, we're like 40% of the movie going.
Yeah, we just, especially opening weekend, we are just.
Yeah, we watch movies more than any other race, basically, and many other ethnicity. And so I knew that, and I was like, why aren't we making movies for these people? Like, why? And I think that something like In the Heights, they try and make it so that, like, it's hard to crack, but I think it's Latino people, because there's so many countries that we come from, and so many and within those countries so many cultures and dialects and customs, right? There are too many things to make us a monolith population.
Yep.
But there are things that we have in common. I think we all have metiche moms, like all of us.
Yeah.
But like, no matter where you're from, that is a common thing. There there are these like uniting things. And by the way, that's not just Latinx people, but like
Jewish mothers and
exactly. I always say like Cuba is Cubans are the Jews of the Caribbean. It's like the same. We have the same style of comedy and the same mothers and the same guilt. It's all the same. The guilt. It's all the same. It really is. But I think that's where that movie failed, in that it tried to make it so generic so that it would be like one size fits all, that nobody, in my community at least, really connected with it as much as they expected it to, because there wasn't a ton of specificity to it. And when I think we've learned that when you try and force the Latinx community into something that's made for them, it doesn't feel right and it doesn't land right. And so not that my movie's in response to that, my movie's been happening way before that, but my intention always is to capture, like, I think they did it in Selena, and I think they did it in Coco, and I think they did it in a movie like Fargo, where you have there's specificity, and that specificity makes it universal. And I think there's a really specific side of Miami that has never been shown in any Miami movies, as we know, because Miami movies are always about the beach, and they're always the like glitzy, glammy side of Miami, and it's not about the experience of actually living there and like maybe sometimes hating it. It's not about that experience, and I think that is so relatable to everyone, not only to Latinx people, but to everyone, and certainly to people from Miami. And so like, that's what we wanted to write, is that other side of Miami that you haven't seen yet.
I also think with what you said about In the Heights, because we talked about that here when the movie came out.
I'm a sucker for a musical, so I'm always going to love a musical.
Of a backlash.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I just feel like it was, I'm talking about like box office wise, it was a disappointment, and it also was not watched by Latin people as much as they thought it would be.
But I think that one of the problems with it was that, as you said, so very few movies get made about the Latin experience or Latin culture, that whenever a movie does come out, it has like the weight of the entire like Latin community as a whole on it, and it's just it's such a burden to bear, because in the Heights, obviously talked about Washington Heights, which is predominantly a Dominican enclave. And if we were to be having more of these stories, like you said, while some projects are about Dominicans and some about our Cubans and some about our Mexicans and Colombians, so on and so forth, there wouldn't be, I think, this kind of unrealistic expectation because that movie had to be everything for everyone.
But it did. I disagree. It didn't have to be, but it tried to be, which is why it wasn't successful. That's why I mean, and it obviously it was. It made a lot of money for a lot of people, but I just mean like in the way that they expected it to be for Latinx people, because they wanted it to be everything for everyone, and nothing is going to be everything
because there's nuance.
Yes, and also I think that. Honestly, I think that Latinx people are tired of being represented only by like one block in New York and LA or Texas. Like there's more. There's so much more, and all these stories are just these places. And there's so many different countries in Miami. There's so many now. I mean, it did used to be so much Cuban, but now it's everything. It's this big melting pot. And that's so interesting. And everybody wants to go to Miami, and it's like this place everybody talks about. And I think it's fun to tell them, like, not necessarily the real story, because there's many real stories and many different perspectives. And it's also, by the way, not based on my life or my writing partner's life that much. But there's elements of like what it is like to live there that I don't think people have really seen. So it's exactly what I was saying before with Booksmart and Plan B. Like, it wouldn't be compared to the last thing if there was many other ones. Another thing is just to keep making these movies so that they're not like, oh, it's like the Latin version of this, right? Yep. Or like, so it's just what it is. And that's the goal, man. So
you're gonna make a movie about Miami where we don't go to the beach every day, we don't go to clubs every day, like, because that's what everybody thinks. Like, oh yeah, we go to the beach every day. We all have Lamborghinis, and we don't work.
You hit the nail on the head. Like every third word out of people's mouth in the script is bro.
Oh,
that's
okay.
how
Yeah.
Miami is.
It's authentic.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm gonna go ahead and just put me and DJ out there. You know, if when this moves forward, it gets obviously. I'm hoping it'll be filmed down here in Miami, and you
Yeah.
need someone to play the people taking los centro de mesas from
Oh my God,
all
that's
these
so
events.
funny.
We
Yes.
volunteer. We volunteer.
Okay,
We have
great.
experience.
I'll definitely keep you guys in mind.
I did some theater at FIU.
Amazing. So did I. Yeah, so did I.
Israel Garcia, I remember, was our professor.
I don't think I had Raul Garcia. No, I had Philip Church, and I had a few other ones
Oh,
when I was
know
there.
Philip Church actually, because
You do?
Yeah, because he does his taxes with my dad.
I hope he's
What a
doing
small
well.
world!
It's a very small world. I'm sure we know a million other people in common.
I'm sure that if we really sat down and talked it
Yes.
through, of course, we have a cousin in common somewhere. For
Somewhere,
sure.
of course.
For sure.
Yes. Oh my God. I know. I can't believe we all went to Southwest. It's so crazy.
But, well, Natalie, I know you are a very, very busy person, and you know you've been so awesome. And honestly, I'm only doing this because it's 3 Cubans talking, so we could be here for another 18 hours, and
We could, yeah.
and not even blink. And
I know.
but Natalie, again, thank you so much. Like I know, it took a while to coordinate it, but they say all good things come to those who wait, and this interview is proof of that. Like honestly,
Thank you. I'm so happy to talk to you guys. Thank you.
You've been
And thank you
amazing.
for everything that you guys are doing, in regards to Cuba too. I think it's important to keep talking about it. So thank you.
And we're back. She was great.
She was great. Like as you know, I edit our interviews down. I tried my hardest, but it was there was so much like jewels in there. It was like from talking about Southwest, our betters, her grandfather having the boat in the back. It's just I couldn't.
She was
I couldn't.
Great. She was great, and it felt like we were talking to one of us because she is.
She is, like, legit.
She's great. She's great, and
I can't help but wonder if like we ever were just like in the same Publix together.
I'm sure we were. Of course we were.
It's
Westchester.
like yeah, exactly. Like
I'm sure we were at Navarro at some point. So people who go to CVS y más will never understand.
no,
Es verdad que Navarro es el lugar más barato para los perfumes.
it really is.
It really is. I could buy my Calvin Klein Eternity there for like $35.
I mean, sure, you don't get the tote bag, but I don't use the tote bag anyway.
Yeah, neither do I.
Or the gift set.
The gift set, right. With the, soap that I don't use, with the deodorant I don't use, with the body cream that I don't use either.
Nobody uses it.
No.
So even when I go out and I buy it for like un regalo,
Yeah.
it's just a
And then you
waste.
can't re-gift it
No.
because people know.
Well, not just that, because they put the cologne inside the it's
The-
usually
the-
like a
yes.
gift
The
set.
box,
Yeah,
yes.
the box. So
Yeah.
what are you going to
So whatever.
regalarlo con un empty space?
So whatever. Anyway, it's soda time.
It is soda time. So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'm going to give us a gasless soda this week, and it's just going to be very short and simple. It's not against one person in specific. Okay. My gasless soda goes to all the idiots online who are doing the crate challenge. That's all. Thank you.
You're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, the crate challenge.
Yes, I am.
right?
Yeah.
Well, to our listeners who don't know what the crate challenge is,
Look it up. Just look it up. You will-
It's
yeah.
milk crates that you do in an ascending kind of stair, and then you descend on the other side, and then people have fallen and gotten hurt. Because when you see it online and people are falling and getting hurt, because the videos show people falling
Yeah,
and getting hurt.
it's not tricking you.
It's telling me, sure, I'm going to go ahead and do that.
I'm going to be the one that's going to do it.
Yes, I'm going to do it. So
I'm gonna be the one.
You get a gasless soda.
Well, I'm also giving a gasless soda this week.
So,
My gasless soda goes to all the anormales in Mississippi who have been taking ivermectin as a cure for COVID.
what is that?
Do you know what ivermectin is?
Something for diarrhea,
No, that would actually be okay.
for mouse droppings.
No, you get one more guess. I'm going to give you 3 guesses.
Is it some type of bug repellent?
No, but close-ish. It is a cow deworming medication.
Oh, because that clearly is going to affect
Right.
a human pulmonary issue.
At least 70% of the recent calls to poison control in Mississippi have been related to the ingestion of livestock or animal formulations of ivermectin purchased at livestock supply centers. And these are the same people who will tell you, I'm not taking a vaccine because I don't know what's in it.
All I have to say about that...
Anormales.
All I have to say about that and the milk crate challenge...
They
and
deserve
so
each
many
other.
other things, is that one of the beautiful things about getting older is you realize a lot of things are correct that you heard when you were younger. And the older that I get, the more I agree and I realize that Darwin was correct.
Oh, yeah. And not just from Fresh presents Que Voila.
No.
Although he probably would agree with us.
Yes. Charles Darwin was onto something. He really was when he talked about natural selection.
Yep.
And if you don't know what natural selection is, please look it up. Because one of the things that COVID has really, really taught me is, that Charles Darwin, this is not a theory. This is survival of the fittest is a real thing.
It's real.
It is a real thing. So they will take a cow deworming medication that's not for humans, but they will not take the vaccine.
Right.
That makes so much sense.
Right.
Again, the thing is that they became infectious disease experts overnight.
But they also became veterinarians?
Yeah, of course.
Coño.
There's a vet course that you could take in 20 minutes. You just hit 20 different slides. Next.
It's shorter than the COVID course because I hear that one's 30 slides.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't include the variants.
That's why. The variance always gets you.
Yeah, the variants.
Yeah.
Of course, the Delta, the Eastern,
The Pan Am.
the TWA, all the variants.
All of them.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we can't have nice things.
Thank you.
This is why we can't have nice things. No, yeah. Charles Darwin, I'm telling you, people, I rest very easily because,
Yeah. I'm not getting milk crates.
If we judge the Charles Darwin, if we go down
that route,
I'm good.
I like to think I'm okay. I've had lapses in judgment, but youthful lapses in judgment.
Yeah, you live and learn,
Right. But I learned, right.
You live and learn, right. But again, read up on Charles Darwin and
It wasn't wrong, people.
No.
wasn't wrong.
So I don't know if we should end the show on that note.
I think we both gave gasless sodas, so
I was actually gonna say, but it's a really big downer. I was actually gonna say that, our hearts go out to the tragedy in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
What's been going on for
about 2-3 weeks at this point.
Yeah, and what happened this week with the explosion? There were, I think, a dozen American military crewmen that died, along with civilians that died. It's just a horrible, horrible, horrible tragedy that's going on over there. And sometimes when we record this show, we kind of have to do a juggling act in terms of what we cover, because we like to cover topics and we like to cover things that are current and things that are going on in the world. And if you've been listening to us all this time, you know that many times we do take on these really hard conversations.
And we spoke of Afghanistan like 2 weeks ago.
We did.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, I know a lot of you listen to us to kind of laugh and get away and all that. So we really struggle with should we include bad,
and how much
really heavy content, and so we like to kind of balance it a little bit. So anyway, with that, we hope you listened, laughed, and learned. And if you didn't learn about Charles Darwin, go look him up now. And as always, remember to grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito, and have a great weekend, everybody. Pero Friday, have a great time, and see you next week. Yes. Why did I say that? I was
are we like a Batman episode? Same bat channels?
Next week.
Bye, mi gente.
Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.